Okay, we're live. You guys are like, "What is happening?" It's Tuesday. What are you guys doing on camera? Well, that's a little bit of a story I can tell you here in a minute, but we're here and we're rocking. We're ready to roll. Just got to connect Facebook and Instagram, and we're good. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me on a Tuesday is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. But Zack, if ever there was a Tuesday that we were going to go ahead and step in, this was a pretty good one because not only did we have day one of mandatory minicamp, plenty of action going on today, but Broncos made a roster move. Break it down, bro.
Yeah, considering the backstory of us filling in tonight, I feel like if we didn't have the breaking news, we might not have been on. But here we are. The Broncos did get the deal done. They pulled an Evan Ingram like we thought they might, Chad, with J.K. Dobbins, a 1-year deal. I think it's worth 2.87 million, something in that range, worth up to $5.25 million total for the 2025 season with incentives for rushing and things of that nature. So J.K. Dobbins officially in the fold. The Broncos have more experience in their backfield now, and it's an upgraded unit, Chad, with the addition of second-round rookie R.J. Harvey. Very excited for the abbreviation backfield with J.K. and R.J.
I am too, dude. I had some misgivings. It's not so much like I was worried about the running back room, but as you guys know, I'm like, they just need a little bit of experience back there. And Pookie could have provided that, but he was just never going to be the same, I don't think. I got to disagree with George Payton. Maybe he'll be, I hope I'm proven wrong because I care about Javonte Williams. I want to see him go to Dallas and have success, but I think his glory days pre-injury are gone, and they needed a little bit of veteran savvy. So I'm glad it's J.K. Dobbins. Yes, he and Nick Chubb, Zach, both have a pretty serious injury jacket, but I would argue that Dobbins is a little less serious, only in that it's a little bit further. The gnarly injuries are a little bit further in his rearview mirror than in the case of Nick Chubb. But I thought it was interesting, even though it was being reported, Zach, across the fruited plain. Sean Payton today was like, yeah, I'm not going to answer to any reports on Dobbins. I think we're close. I'll tell you tomorrow, which we will, of course, Zach, actually get to hear from him tomorrow.
Peyton's loathing of the media comes out at any chance it can get. He's really passive aggressive, but that's who he is, and it's all but signed. It's all but official. J.K. Dobbins is a Denver Broncos running back, and you see there, 1-year deal worth up to $5.25 million. We'll see if he hits that figure, Chad, because I think RJ's going to get a lot of work. And as Peyton cautioned once again today, Audric Estime is going to get opportunities. Jaleel McLaughlin's going to get opportunities. He singled out Bidet for his pass protection chops. And they also have Blake Watson. So this running back, in terms of titles, the situation is still far from settled.
Yeah, we're going to get a lot more into the running back situation. Let's give some hellos like to David Yunkin, jumping in early before we went live. Much love and
Thank you,
respect,
David.
big dog. Thank you. He says this season is shaping up to be fun, but a few running backs will be cut after this signing. Well, I wouldn't say like immediately after, but yeah, this pushes some guys. This makes like a Blake. It really, Zach, it's Blake Watson or Tyler Bidet. And it's probably going to be Blake Watson who gets shown the door. And Bidet will be the practice squad guy. And they'll carry Dobbins, Harvey, Estime, and McLaughlin. That's just like off the cuff. We still have a lot to see in training camp and preseason, but that's sitting here June 10th.
I think you're right on the money there. Bidet or Watson's going to be the odd man out. And because Sean Payton likes what Bidet does in pass pro, I think he has the upper hand. And I think I saw that Watson wasn't really doing much in mandatory minicamp today. So maybe a situation worth monitoring with him.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up, Scott. So today he was being asked on the Dobbins was he addressing it? Yeah. Hey, how do you evaluate J.K. Dobbins' career and injury history, Coach Payton? Just like we evaluate everyone else's. Next question. It's like, hey, thanks, Coach. You're so edifying and illuminating. Papa Bear, what's up, dude? We've missed you the last few days. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, sir.
Hope
Thank you, David.
all of the dust up, the scares, without getting too far into it, that everything was the way you thought it was going to be read and everything's good, big dog. So appreciate you. Much love and respect. He says, good evening, Broncos country, 13-4 plus. J.K. Dobbins, in my humble opinion, is a low-risk, high-reward player. God bless USA. Let's go, Bo. MHH for life, Broncos for life, Buckham ×3. Yeah, it just kind of depends a little bit on how much of that up to $5 million he ends up earning, Zach. But if he ends up earning that much of it, it's probably because he made a pretty big impact. So cool with me.
Exactly. It's still not that much to pay a potential 1,000-yard running back, $5 million. And if he hits those numbers, like you said, Chad, it means that he eclipsed 1,000 yards or something close to it, or scoring a bunch of touchdowns, or the Broncos are winning football games. Either way, they'll be happy to pay that figure.
Papa Bear again, dude. Can't tell you how great it is to see you in the chat tonight. The Lady D also in the house. Hope you're doing well. She might not actually still be in the chat. I'm not sure based on what she says here, but she says, evening Broncos country, just saying hi before they start, like the Dobbins signing, low risk, high reward potential, MHH for life. Thank you, Lady D. We appreciate you. And yes, what do you got to lose, right? You're probably going to be leaning heavily on Harvey. We already knew that. And this takes a little of the onus, or a little of the what's the word I'm looking for? The little of the dependency off of Estime. And you don't have to depend on him turning a corner in year 2. You can rely on, okay, our big star playmaker guy that's going to explode things and shake things up. That's our rookie second-round pick. And now we have Dobbins to come in and hammer you till the cows come home, along with Estime. By the way, once you start getting gassed and tired, or if he starts getting gassed and tired, hey, Estime, come on in and punch these guys in the mouth. I'll remind you guys, what was it, Zach? 25 carries that he had against the Broncos last year. The
96 yards and a touchdown.
He missed 4 games last year, Dobbins, as a Charger. One of them was the second matchup against the Broncos.
Yeah, he had, as I wrote, I did a reaction piece. A couple of the Broncos players reacted to the signing, and he had one of the better games against the stout Broncos defense. Chad mentioned 25 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown. He was effective. It was a difference in that ball game. I think it was 23-16 final, Chargers victory. And also, Chad, the converse to your point is that they don't have to rely on Dobbins either. They're not signing him to be the workhorse, no doubt starter. It's not like signing Evan Ingram and you have nothing else behind him. You have RJ Harvey, you have Estime, and you have McLaughlin to lean on in that scenario.
But, if he could stay healthy, Dobbins, just from like a 10,000-foot perspective, okay? I mean, this was a relatively highly drafted guy. Scott always cringes when I say that, because premium or highly drafted, to him that means top 10, baby, or at worst, first round. But this is a guy that had some draft pedigree coming out of Ohio State, and I think last year was really the first opportunity he had to begin scratching the surface of what he's truly capable of in the league. And, dude, he's a workhorse, man. He can get after it. He's a very, in my opinion, Zach, comforting failsafe to have in the running back room. Ronk, what's up, dude? Good evening, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. But yes, and thank you, Ronk. Comforting, Zach. That's my thought on the addition of J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, that's a good descriptor for it, because it gives you that peace of mind. The potential 1-2 punch is exciting with Dobbins and Harvey, the thunder and lightning. I always go back to the Lions, the Gibbs and Montgomery approach. But let's just say, God forbid, Dobbins gets injured. You can go back to the Estime or you can rely on McLaughlin for that role.
Hey, guys, lots more to get to. We're going to grab Mike Thompson real quick. We don't want to keep him waiting too much longer. Thank you, buddy. Great to see you on Super Chat. You're in the chat almost every night anyway. Thank you for the Super Chat, big dog. He says, I really like Shepard. Any chance at the practice squad, the rookie receiver that was in on a tryout basis, Zach? What do you make of that situation for the Broncos? He's the guy, if you guys remember, Sean Payton's chatting up this dude at the CSU pro day, et cetera, et cetera. Your thoughts for Mike?
Yeah, a local kid. We talked about, I can't remember who it was the other night, about a receiver's chances of making the roster of the practice squad. And I said the same thing I'll say now, is that they're so log jammed. Even beyond just the starting 4 of the top 5, you have other players, the undrafted free agents, and a couple guys they brought back, like Michael Bandy, for example, fighting for a spot too. So, I mean, he has local chops. He has pretty good tape. We'll see what happens in training camp in the preseason.
That was in us bringing that up, roster outlook for depth receivers. That was on the subject of A.T. Perry, the
That's right.
legend. Like
That's
him
right.
and Sloter, dude. I don't know what they did, but people love this guy. Okay, guys, real quick, more to get to tonight. We do have to keep it a little bit tight because Zach and I were not initially planning on streaming tonight, but the guys, Nick and Carl, couldn't quite make it work. Had some things going on. So here we are, but we got to keep it tight. Any burning questions, topics, supers, get them in the chat. We'll get to them. We got time. I'm just telling you, we're not going to be able to go the full hour tonight. But guys, really quick, enjoy this time of year. It's summertime. Everything's a blooming. The weather's warm. And you don't want to be spending that time in the kitchen. Make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals with Factor. And eating well has never been this easy, guys. You just heat it up, you enjoy. Gives you more time to do the things that you want and get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat. These are not frozen. They come in like a frozen TV dinner looking kind of format, but they're not frozen. They're fresh. They're come from a refrigerated box, and you put them in the fridge till you cook them. Killer. 45 weekly menu options. You get to pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. Choose from options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more.
Guys, Factor absolutely powers your day with satisfying breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. It's easy to savor more this summer. Factor meals pack in the flavor with none of the fuss. Get started at factormeals.com/milehigh50off and use code milehigh50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code milehigh50off at factormeals.com/milehigh50off for 50% off plus free shipping.
All right. Back to the chat. Let's see what's on Phil's mind. What's going on, brother? Great to see you. Good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Dobbins will add the veteran experience, could help Harvey and put pressure on the rest of the room, in my opinion. Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Yeah, and it's just another set of experienced eyes when whether, Zach, you're in the film room, the meeting room. Hey, I'm Dobbins and I took a few carries on the second series, let's say, and I noticed a little something, a tendency in the linebacker or something the safety was doing. I'm going to let Bo know, or I'm going to mention it to RJ. Little things like that can really help elevate a team that you don't necessarily know what you're missing. So I'm really excited to bring him on. I'll echo, Zach, what some of the other superstars have said tonight: low risk, high reward signing.
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull it up, but I'm pretty sure they're mostly built, Dobbins and Harvey, the same. I see Dobbins is 5'10", 215. Harvey's 5'8", 195 or 200 in that range once you get up to the Broncos strength and conditioning program. So again, a nice complementary 1-2 punch for Sean Payton's system. He loves rotating running backs. That's what he said earlier. Don't start counting up to 53 because we signed J.K. Dobbins. We're going to use a ton of backs, and we still like Estime, McLaughlin, Bidet, and Watson.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how tall, just for craps and gigs. So Estime is still the tallest back on the roster. He's officially 5'11" at 227. So now you got Dobbins checking in at 5'10", and then you got some 5'8" and 5'7" guys. So for what it's worth. Gene William, what's going on, dude? We're going to get to you in just a moment, my dog. Hang tight.
Thank
The
you,
Lady D from the top rope. I'm not sure if she's still in the chat. Well, now we know most certainly that she is.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Deanna. Thank you.
Lady D, for the very, very special and generous super chat. She says, hello, Chad, Zach, and Scott. Super excited for the season to start. I like that the running backs have a veteran to give the wisdom to the rookies. This year's team is going to be fierce. Go Broncos, MHH for life. That's what I'm saying. Wisdom, experience, and when push comes to shove, a guy who can give you some production. Let's not forget about that.
Thank you, Deanna. First and foremost, hope you're having a great Tuesday night. And they are going to be fierce. And I'd like to pose a question to anyone out there, non-rhetorically. Give me one reason why the Broncos, as constructed right now, barring any sort of injury, cannot compete with the Chiefs for the AFC West title. One reason.
Let's go. Thank you again, Lady D. It means the world to us. We're so stoked that we get to hang out with you and meet you for the first time. Yes. Week 7, the MHH meet and greet. It's going to be so fun, man. I can't get here fast enough. So we'll look forward to that time. And thank you again for the generous super. Gene William in the house. What's up, bro? He says, what's up, y'all? Hyped about the JK signing, wondering how it's going to make the rest of the running backs feel. Well, kind of like what the Lady D said there. A little bit on their toes. Zach, you mentioned a few of the things that he said. I'm trying to find there's a specific quote. He made a comment about, well, give some thought. I'm going to find, on what he's looking forward to seeing from the running backs. Quote, I'm looking forward to seeing how they play. They're going to get opportunities. I said it earlier. This was 2 weeks ago. Audric is going to get opportunities. So Audric is a part of the equation regardless. We've seen Jaleel McLaughlin. Don't try to figure out the club right now. He's telling to the media. It's way too early. So some of this he's just saying has to take care of itself through training camp and the preseason. But it's pretty clear, Zach, the order now of priority / commitment / sympathy, whatever you want to call it, in no particular, like the three guys, it's Harvey, Estime, and now Dobbins. And I still think McLaughlin's going to have a place as that slasher guy and come in and help you out on third down. But the top three guys, I think, are set. The problem is every once in a while, that fourth running back, you're not going to dress him a lot of the times, so you got to really be strategic in your game planning on which running backs are going to factor in.
I think the top four are set. I think Sean Payton gave a little bit of inside baseball away there, Chad, with his verbiage with McLaughlin. We've seen McLaughlin, a.k.a. we've seen what he can do. We trust him enough. And you can tell that Sean Payton, in such a crazy backfield situation last year, the one guy that seemed like he can trust was McLaughlin. So there's your four right there. I think so.
Also, we've got more brace girdles in the house right here. Ralph as well. What's up, dude? He says, my priest, I called it last night with Dobbins shaking out like Ingram. What are your thoughts on 69, my man Stink, Mark Schlereth, predicting the Chargers as the AFC West champs? I missed that. I saw now granted, it was in a tweet that I scrolled on while I was on X yesterday, Zach. Whatever, 10, 11 wins, or it might have been 11 or 12 wins he predicted for Denver. But what are your thoughts on Stink predicting Chargers, not Chiefs, not Broncos?
I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but this is the same rap with the Chargers each and every offseason, Chad. The most hype of any team, top 5 rankings, and the hype around Herbert and Harbaugh and everything. And then what happens? They win some regular season games, they get into the playoffs, and mostly one and done, and kind of like a wet fart. So that's what they'll be again in 2025, Chad. A wet fart.
Yeah.
Just like Stink.
Apropos. Yeah, man. I mean, Chargers are going to Charger. However, it's pretty impressive that in his first year, Jim Harbaugh came in, boom, we're going to the playoffs and swept the Broncos. They're nothing to be dismissed. They're going to be tough, man. And that's one of the plights of being in the AFC West now is it's a tough division, dude. Quarterbacks on all teams, savvy veteran coaches. It's going to be a tough division, but the Broncos, I think, have one of the difference makers in not only the fact that they've got Sean Payton, Zach, but they have one of the best defenses in the league and one of the better up-and-coming rising quarterbacks. And I think Bo Nix, I wrote about this today based on things being said at camp and on top of everything else we've already seen and heard. I think Bo Nix, not only is he going to avoid, Zach, the sophomore slump, but I think he's going to have a very eye-opening year 2. Let me just put it that way. When it comes to NFL, just saying, okay, let's go ahead and burn and bury all these freezing cold takes on Bo Nix, and let's go ahead and kind of like the way, if you guys recall real quick, Chris Harris Jr., hard to get any props. Then all of a sudden he was so good, it could not be denied. I mean, he's a former college free agent, right? So they're kind of slow to give him the props. And then he was perennial Pro Bowler and All-Pro for a good 4 or 5 year window, whatever it was. That'll happen for Bo Nix this year. Boom, no more. We can't say word one bad anymore about Bo Nix because the truth is out there.
Well, the fact they got swept by the Chargers, at least in the second game, was not because of Bo Nix. If they had any semblance of a pass defense, they probably would have won that second game and went 1-1. So Bo is right there on a path where I think Herbert should have been all along, Chad. And maybe I'm just a hater. I don't see it with him. And we'll see if Harbaugh can repeat that success against Peyton in year 2. I have my reservations.
One interesting tidbit based on what you just said that triggered something for me. If you guys remember, in the first matchup with the Chargers, Pat Surtain suffers a concussion, whatever it was, first defensive snap of the game, right? The second one, I think, was the last game without Riley Moss. Let me double check that. Make sure I'm not tripping. I'm in there now. I'm looking.
Herbert was great in the second half of the second game, but the Broncos could
Yeah,
not stop a nosebleed.
no Moss. So my point being that, yes, they swept the Broncos. There were some outliers in both games. One being you were missing your best defensive player in the first one. And it's not just in that game, Zach, that you were missing PS2. It's how that injury obviously shook the defense.
Defensive player of the year.
They were like, whoa. And then the second game, you were still without Riley Moss in that window of time where you're giving up insane yardage and touchdowns to passers. Lady D jumping in again.
Thank you.
We love you, Deanna. Thank you so much. She says, looking forward to the meet and greet and meeting you guys. This is my opinion, I think she's saying only, but I'm not worried about the Chiefs. I think it's the Chargers we have to get past. Can't wait for the season to begin. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Well, now listen, we were talking about this yesterday, Zach, and even Sean Payton talked a little bit about this today, that Broncos got to start faster in the season. They've had, in both years he's been here, really slow starts to the season. And they got to string some wins together in terms of a few streaks throughout the season where you're going, 5, 6 in a row. Oh, you lost one. But now you're going 4, 5 in a row. Oh, you lost one. Kind of like that. That's what the great teams in the league do. And Zach, we know that the Chiefs with Sean Payton, and especially now that Bo Nix is here, Sean Payton leveled that playing field. The Broncos can compete and beat the Chiefs on any given Sunday. Not just something that you say, but we've seen it. The Chargers, though, are more enigmatic relative to the actual head-to-head. Having swept the Broncos last year, I think they split in Payton's first year. So since Payton's been here, Zach, 1-3 against the Chargers. So I understand her point, but I just too soon for me to fully sleep on the Chiefs and dismiss them. You know what I mean? Not to say that you're doing that, Lady D. I'm not saying you're dismissing them, but let's not forget it's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes after all.
Speaking of the Chargers, let's also not forget that before Peyton got here, the only team the Broncos could beat that was a divisional opponent was the Chargers. They couldn't beat Kansas City. They had the losing streak against the Raiders forever, Chad, but a couple of years, I think they swept the Chargers, and now the tides have turned, but I don't think that's going to last very long.
See, Ralph, this strikes me as something that you say so as not to be perceived in your home market as too homerific. You know what I mean? He says Stink also said he'd give up Nix for Justin Herbert. Look, both of them are excellent quarterbacks, dude. It's tough. That would be a really tough, like in a vacuum, you remove all the factors of allegiances and fanhood, and somehow you can blind your subconscious to your Bronco allegiances, and you're just looking at quarterbacks. They're both very good, young, up-and-coming quarterbacks. Let's not forget, Zach, the rookie with the most passing touchdowns in NFL history, Herbert. The rookie with the second most, Bo Nix. Obviously, it was a serious harbinger for Herbert. I think it is as well for Nix.
I mean, he entered the NFL in 2020, Herbert. He's been in the playoffs twice. Bo Nix entered last season. He's already been in the playoffs. He's 1 for 1 there. So if it's going on career trajectory, I'm going to take Bo Nix there. And you said he doesn't want to come off too homeristic, but saying that comes off like he's overly biased too. So it's a careful line to walk, but we all have our opinions, and I'm taking Bo.
I'm taking Bo too. And maybe people will say that's the homer in me, but I just love his approach. The one thing about Justin Herbert is and I've said this since the 2020 draft. Now, we were not locked into the 2020 draft on quarterback watch because we were coming off Drew Lock's 4-1 finish to his rookie year in 2019. But I remember saying, Herbert, it's like, does he have a heartbeat? Like him, similar to
Jalen Hurts
and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, I got to talk to in person the year prior at the combine, and I'm like, yo, dude, like, where's your passion? Where's your any fire? Even Drew Lock, dude, when he stood at the podium I'm not comparing Drew Lock to Herbert. I'm saying personalities. Okay. Drew Lock, was, you could see had a little energy to him, even at the podium. Justin Herbert, man, it's like, hey, dude, did somebody forget to get my dog his pre-workout today? Or hurry, give him some caffeine. But on the field, Zach, he's a killer.
A silent killer. You know, he's the type where it's literally sunshine and rainbows 24/7 in his life. I'd like to live in that universe, but in mine, it's not. I don't think in Bo Nix's it is either. I like my quarterback to have that a little bit of that edge. I brought
I
up
do
Jalen
too.
Hurts and Tua because they're good quarterbacks, but they're very passive personality wise. I
Yeah.
want a quarterback that's going to snap back at Sean Payton like Bo Nix did and not take a verbal dress down like Russell Wilson did.
I gotta, because I know not everybody's in the chat every single night. You know, it's the summertime, especially. You guys are leading your lives and you got things cooking. But for those who might have missed this from a couple days ago, I'm just reminding you what Mike McGlinchey said, the right tackle. Uh, uh, there you go. On Bo Nix, he said, "This is to the Denver Post." He's talking to Troy Rank, and he says, on Bo, the confidence, the competitiveness, the willingness to get after Sean at times. This is Bo's team. He knows that. Everybody knows that. And it's really cool to see him manage expectations. He does not give a bleep. He has such a talent for blocking anything that doesn't matter to him out. I think that's what separates the great ones, simplifying your life to make sure that everything is going toward one goal. The way he's looked the last 2 weeks, the kid is on his way to really taking off. So if a rookie year, Zach, of 3,700 yards and 29 touchdowns is like, I don't know what, not taking off. What's coming is taking off. I think year 2 for Bo Nix could be huge, dude. Seriously, huge.
If he was in an offense like, for example, maybe Jaden Daniels, where they were just chock full of talent surrounding him and he put up those numbers, maybe it wouldn't seem that impressive. But not to have a running game, not to have a tight end, to have one dependable pass catcher in Cortland Sutton, to have to learn a Sean Payton system and have the pressure of succeeding Russell Wilson and to put up those numbers and have that success in year 1, how do you not see the arrow just skyrocketing upward with Bo Nix?
Gene says, I loved Drew Lock, but Bo just has the dog energy. The day he barked at Sean was the day I knew we had a QB1. One of the big differences there are a lot of differences between Drew Lock and Bo Nix, but from a leadership and an intangibles perspective, Drew Lock can't, unfortunately, hold a candle to Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a very cerebral guy. He leads not only by example, but he'll challenge guys and hold guys accountable. Drew Lock's kind of more like Zach, that lovable guy who mommy always told him he was the brightest and the smartest and the most talented little boy in the world. And, go along to get along, have fun while I'm out. Like kind of similar to Jay Cutler in a way of like, hey guys, I'm not so much that I'm out here. I'm here for number one, looking out for number one, but just kind of one of the guys. And that's the thing about your quarterback. You want him to have that kind of cachet where he's one of the guys, but he also kind of needs to be a little bit aloof and removed and like it so as to be able to hold guys accountable and set the tone and all those things. And that was the one of many between the ears components, Zach, that Drew Lock unfortunately just didn't have, and Bo Nix does in spades.
Yeah, I was going to say Locke reminded me of Chad Kelly minus the drunken Halloween escapades. That kind of wild, frat boyish, easy come, easy go, dancing on the sidelines. We all love Drew for it, but now that we see what we have in comparison in hindsight, we have an adult at the position.
Yeah, like Scott says, Drew just rolled off the beach after maybe smoking a little something up and put on his helmet and says, okay, let's play, bro. I'm here. Kind of nonchalant.
Yep.
But at the same time, and I don't want to make this a Drew Lock podcast because we got to answer Phil here, but I still and always will wonder, what kind of career trajectory Drew may have had if he lands in New Orleans with the Sean Payton or, a more accomplished and stable offensive coaching staff and vision. And one of the worst decisions the Broncos ever made after drafting Drew Lock, sorry, Vic Fangio, but was firing Rich Scangarello after his first year. But that thoughts on that, Zach, and then we'll grab Phil.
It wasn't just firing Scangarello. It was firing Scangarello and then hiring Pat Shurmur, the guy who would practice incompletions during training camp. It was double down. And it was just, I don't want to go back to that chat. Pete,
hey, for what it's worth, Scott's like, Sean Payton would have straight executed Drew Lock. Maybe, dude. He might not have had the acumen to keep up. It's very possible, but I'll always wonder. All right, Phil. What's up, brother? Guys, who has the most to prove at mandatory minicamp, in your opinions? Well, again, it's tough to say, dude, because we can go through a list of guys who have a lot to prove this year, who are bubble guys, all that. but there's still no pads. There's still no contact. The coaches do up the ante a little bit, Zach, during mandatory minicamp because the format opens up a little for them. By rule, they can spend a little bit longer in the meetings. Sean Payton talked about this today, in fact, a little bit longer practices, a little bit longer post practice in the meetings. So just more time, but the physicality component, I would argue the intensity component does kind of elevate because there's guys who didn't show up for OTAs voluntary who are there, and the coaches who come for mandatory, and the coaches know this is their last chance to have these guys till they get to training camp. So the intensity level and all that is elevated, Zach, but it's still the same format of it's hard to judge trench guys. It's hard to judge front seven dudes. You can make some evaluations, I think, on receivers and quarterbacks and all that, partial evaluations, that is. But what's your answer for Phil?
Not a lot is going to come out of minicamp. I think Sean is waiting for training camp in the preseason when the pads go on, the bullets start flying. But we've been spending this whole podcast talking about running backs, and how could we not mention the bottom two now in Tyler Bidet, Blake Watson? I'll throw Estime in there. The addition of Dobbins, Chad, we don't know just yet, but it was an indictment on someone. Someone is not going to survive the addition of J.K. Dobbins. So whoever that is going to have something to prove over the next couple days.
True. I would say, a few guys to kind of watch. Caleb Lohner, the 7th round tight end. Not that he's under pressure. We already know he's a little bit of a long shot to expect making the roster, but at the same time, that's honestly what my read on Devon Vele was this time last year as well. And we all know how that shook out. And in fact, Zach, today, Peyton talked a little bit about, by way of an update, Caleb Lohner. And he said, quote, in terms of how his development's coming along, quote, he's coming around, he's doing well. There are some things that are new to him, and there are some things then that are, hold on. There are some things that are new to him, and then there are some things that he gravitates to that I think he's further along with. He's doing well. So far, so good for Lohner. But if he wants to actually make the 53 and contribute and be one of those guys who is on the roster, you could do this as practice squad elevations too, obviously, but a guy who is available and suited up. So if Sean Payton wants to run one of those 2 tight end sets in the red zone and get this massive basketball body out there, this Jimmy Graham, light out there, you got to go out and earn it, because even Zach, as lackluster as the tight ends were, and by the way, guys, we're about out of time, so 2-minute warning, but as lackluster as the tight end group was last year, Troutman is a long tenured Peyton guy. It's going to be hard to unseat him in terms of depth chart supremacy and roster security. Nate Adkins is very well loved, and Lucas Kroll now has a little bit of juice and tenure with Sean Payton. So there, I would argue, to answer Phil's question, that's a guy who isn't necessarily what was the exact premise.
Most approved in minicamp.
Yeah, he has maybe not the most to prove, but he does have a lot to prove. So, and a lot of catching up to do. He only had 50 some odd snaps as a college football tight end.
He had 4 catches, all of which went for touchdowns. Again, it's tough to really determine much in minicamp, but Sean Payton is expecting now what he said about a week or 2 weeks ago, an ascension from Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin, who they traded up for, Bo Nix's college teammate, he's going to have to prove that Payton's trust is valid. So he'll be someone to keep an eye on, not just in minicamp, Phil, but going forward in training camp in the preseason.
Jason says, Sean Payton said he had a 3rd round grade on Audric Estime. I'm just not one to give up on a 20-year-old player after one season. I don't think Sean is either. He's not, by the way. He said that today again, that I already told you guys, Audric Estime is going to get his opportunities. That Dobbins arriving, in other words, isn't going to change that Audric Estime is going to get his opportunities. But it does, Zach, I'm sorry, it is going to eat into how big of a, if you look at the total running back touch share on a pie chart, whatever Audric Estime's share of that was before Dobbins, it's been shrunk a little bit. By how much remains to be seen and perhaps is up for debate. But he's the guy who probably ends up being most affected, because initially RJ Harvey, he's the rookie. They're going to make him go through the rookie rituals of earning his spot, and for good reason. But when the rubber meets the road and the games that count arrive, and you're in September and October, they're going to be playing a lot of Harvey.
If the Broncos carry 4, like we talked about, they have backups for either, and they both fit the same, running style and body type. Dobbins and Estime are bigger, kind of more bruising backs, and then you have Harvey and McLaughlin as the speedier, shifty scat back types, pass catchers. Between those 4, you should be good. So I'm not worried about how they're going to divvy up the touches. We just know that Estimate could be one snap away from touching the football if Dobbins gets hurt again, considering his injury history. And he's still going to be involved in some capacity, just maybe not as significant as we thought before.
Quentin, what's up, buddy, on Facebook? Good to see you. Dobbins with our really good offensive line with Harvey too. I'm thinking 12-5 is how many wins we rack up this year. So excited. Go Broncos. I love it, dude. You have every reason. I think we all have every reason to be excited and optimistic about this team. Shiloh jumping in with the offensive versatility we have and how well this O-line blocked last year. There's no way we win fewer than 11 games outside of major exceptions. Let's freaking go. And again, I was encouraged to hear from Sean Payton today. I mean, it's like obvious, but hey, we can't keep starting 0-2. You can't start seasons 0. I mean, if you look at the odds, even last year, Zach, the fact that Denver started 0-2 and made the playoffs, they are one of the very few exceptions. Like it's hard to overcome an 0-2 start and do anything with your season. So I think the impetus this time, and now they have the horses and the scheme, and talking about Bo Nix, for example, today, Zach, again, I wrote about this, so go read it. But on his comfort level, and they asked Coach Payton to try and compare him to some of the other second-year quarterbacks. And he said, quote, "I don't want to compare him to the others because he's different. I see him much further along right now with what we're doing. Taking a play into the huddle real quick. I see him making good decisions. I can't tell you about the others." So everybody is remarking about how, and remember, what was everyone saying about Bo Nix this time last year? Oh, real cool, calm, collected, real smart, obviously accurate, knows what he's doing. None of the moments were too big for Bo Nix last year. However, there was a lot of stuff that we didn't see behind closed doors and fumbling the long-ass play titles and everything, the verbiage, the nomenclature. That stuff's hidden from the public, but everybody is gushing about Bo Nix. Even Brandon Jones. Last thing real quick today, Zach. Brandon Jones today was asked about Bo stepping into more of a leadership role this year. Remember, he was a captain last year, but have you seen that so far in Bo? And he said, I have. I've seen his overall comfort level on the field. You can see he's doing a real good job of trying to diagnose the defense, which goes a super long way, especially as a quarterback. A lot of young quarterbacks kind of struggle with that early on. He's done a really good job of dissecting the defense, figuring out what we are playing, and making the right checks that he needs to make. He definitely made a lot of strides, close quote. So buckle up. It's going to be a fun year.
So much was made about the Broncos starting 0-2, but that's after Bo won a training camp battle, was still learning a Sean Payton offense. And then look who the schedule makers decided to open the Broncos against. At Seattle in week 1, which might be the toughest place to play, especially for a rookie quarterback. And then against the Pittsburgh Steelers, vaunted defense. And then against the Bucs, who Bo Nix beat in week 3, by the way. Look at the difference this season, Chad, with no quarterback battle, and he knows Sean Payton's offense. You get Tennessee and Indianapolis weeks 1 and 2. That should be 2-0 for Bo Nix and giving them more momentum to capitalize later in the season.
Handily, by the way. Bo Nix and the Broncos handily beat the Bucs in week 3. Ronk, thank you, buddy. Great show tonight, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. Much love, brother. We got a few messages for you. Then we're going to take one very quick look back in the chat, so don't leave quite yet.
Tremendous Tuesday episode of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Mile_High_Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football pre-save 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, 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 very important, you know the drill, subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Hey, Eric Flynn, buddy. Thank you. Throwing down some stars at the 11th hour. It means a lot to us, big dog. Zero the hero. I like your 6:45 p.m. comment. I just can't. I can't show it. David Bingaman, what's up, big dog? Good to see you. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well. All right, guys. A mile high salute. A special shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on this rare Tuesday edition of the Mile High Huddle podcast. David Yunkin, the Papa Bear, David McElrath, the Lady D with multiple generous super chats, the Ronk, Mike Thompson, Phil, multiple, Gene William, Ralph, the Brace Girdles showing up, and of course, Eric Flynn. Much love and respect, you guys. We'll see you, Zach and I, Thursday night. And 2 more days, Zach, of mandatory minicamp, and we get media availability all 3 days. So we'll get to see more and hear more tomorrow and Thursday. So by the time Zach and I are back in the saddle Thursday night, we'll have a lot to talk about.
Have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you Thursday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.